Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video on Assassin's Creed Shadows. So in this video, I'm going to be covering a build I've been working on. It's just like the very foundations of it. I know there's improvements that I can use on this specific build. This deals high damage with a mixture of poison and bleed at the same time. I'm going to give you the mechanics of the build. Not only am I going to give you the mechanics of the build, but I'm going to show you guys how to use it, how to apply poison, bleed, vulnerability, and crit all at the same time, right? Because there's a certain set of movements that you want to follow in order to apply all those conditions at once, right? It does a massive amount of damage. And um, I also have another video, a separate one showcasing that build, clearing out a castle. I have two videos, but I'll upload the other video right after I show this build. So let's get right to it. First thing we're going to start off with is the Violent Knight. I don't remember exactly where to get this weapon, but just type up Violent Knight on YouTube, and you should be able to get the location of this actually legendary weapon, or whatever the case may be. The way I have mine set up is trigger poison on deflect, and affliction build is not lost over time. So I get to do two things, right? Because I also have the volt over sprinting, volt over while sprinting over enemies, making them vulnerable too. So I can make them vulnerable by deflecting properly. So if you're pretty good at deflecting or somewhat adapt, I would recommend that you do this. So automatically start the proc, right? So deflect triggers the poison. I also would at the same time volt at them if you want to add an additional crit chance on top of that. Just hoping you guys do know that the volt in itself, if you take a look at the mastery tree here, I believe it's in a shinobi or assassin. No, it's shinobi. I had the wrong tree. So here you go. So look, right? The high volt in itself, it gives you a critical chance by 25%, right? Of course, you could get more by adding the 30% crit chance over, hitting enemies while vulnerable. But just with the destabilizing vault by itself, you get a 25% critical chance over 10 seconds, right? So if you mix it up, I believe if you deflect and you do the vault over, it's going to give you a good amount of crit, right? I don't believe that the crits would stack, the critical chance would stack if you do the deflect, destabilizing vault, and then do the vault from the headband. I have to confirm that by testing, but I don't think it would. But, I have those items to where I can do that maneuver from either blocking or when my time is freed up, I'm just running around evading enemies, I could just do the vault too, right? So you want this particular skill here, right? Go back to the build here. All right, so trigger poison on deflect, affliction buildup is not lost over time, meaning that when you're building that proc meter, let's say if you don't finish building it, it stays on, right? But also remember, guys, this does not apply to both weapons that you have equipped. It'll only apply to the katana. So just because you have the Violent Knight katana and you proc poison, you know what I'm saying? It's not going to somehow add an additional effect if you have bleed on the Tanto per se, and the Tanto is going to stay. No, the bleed affliction on the Tanto is going to deplete because it only works with the weapon of Violent Knight. Remember, guys, the weapons are specialized, right? So the next item I got really lucky when I got this item. The best way to get items, in my opinion, a lot of people say, hey, go with, going back to the hideout and do the save manual loop technique, on your chest. But man, I've been stuck there. Sometimes it's been times I've been stuck there for about maybe an hour, hour and a half, and I still don't get the shit that I want. So in my opinion, I think going to the gear vendors, and you don't have to, by the way, you don't have to change seasons to refresh weapons. You just have to save right before you talk to them for the first time, right? And then repeat that manual save loop and make sure, right, it's a manual save. Okay, so do it again. I'm just going to show you guys, right, because I know I used to make the mistake of you know, doing it on auto save. So make sure you go to create new save game here, right, in order to do the manual save, right? That's how you properly do it. Okay, so you do that and you come back to, you know, the gear vendors until you get the weapons that you want. That's how I was able to grab this, you know, bloody Tanto or vaulting. This is an epic weapon. Comes with posture damage over 10,000, massive posture damage. On top of this build, one technique I love to use, and you're gonna see that in the video that I'm gonna post next after this video showcasing this particular build. The posture damage being this powerful at over 10,000 damage points. What I literally do when I'm surrounded by a lot of enemies is I vault over them and just hit them with a posture backstab from the back, and it one-shots them most of the time. So it's very effective when you're overwhelmed by a lot of different enemies. And this is for my like aggressive combat players. If you enjoy combat, you like taking on multiple enemies, you don't really utilize stealth as much. This is a very effective way to get rid of a lot of enemies at once, right? Just run around, isolate them, right? Isolation is important. You don't want to fight them all at the same time. Even though they take turns hitting you, but, you know, you can still suffer a considerable amount of damage, especially in expert mode, right? So anyway, you vault over them, just hit them with a simple posture, heavy posture attack. Make sure it's heavy, right? Hold down, for my PS5 users, I'm a PS5 user, hold down that R2, and you're going to get that. I'll say 85% of the time, you're going to get that one shot. Breaks right through the armor, even without armor piercing. Breaks right through the armor and everything, and it kills them in one shot, right? This is especially useful against enemies that like to rain down explosive arrows. Because remember, if you took a look at my last video about optimizing your build in the expert combat tips, you will remember that I said that the biggest problem when fighting multiple enemies is not really the melee guys. It's really the ranged weapon guys, right? Because they'll be shooting you from a distance while you're whooping somebody else's ass and mess up your whole momentum, right? So this technique, this particular weapon, Bloody Tanto Vaulting, massive amount of posture damage, right? Then it comes with bleed buildup, right? Perfect sync synergization with the Katana poison build, right? So comes with bleed buildup of 15.7%, right? On top of the 25% critical chance with doing the vaulting and having that option available while deflecting and vaulting and kind of like cycling through, you get a 25% critical damage on hitting afflicted enemies. And if you combine that with the posture damage backstab that I just mentioned while dealing with multiple enemies, it kills them and mows them down very fast, right? Like I said, very useful for kind of dealing with, you know, multiple enemies. 60% adrenaline gain with hitting vulnerable enemies. Guys, this is something that I forgot to mention. Most of these adrenaline gain, in my opinion, and I'm doing this, and I'm telling you from damn near 300 hours of playing this, most of these adrenaline gain hitting vulnerable enemies or on affliction buildup is garbage, bro. They don't even build up as fast as this one right here, right? All you got to do is vault over the enemy, hit him with a few Tantos. The Tanto is the fastest weapon. You have your adrenaline meter back up in less than 5 seconds. The other ones, they fill up fast, but nowhere near, right? Especially, I'm a guy that I'm an ability user, right? So I like to vault over them and deal massive damage using the abilities, and then I'll combine it with other abilities, right? And if you know what you're doing, if you know how to time it properly, you can use all 4 abilities from both weapons while switching at the same time after each combo, right? So, and if you do this build right, most of the time they won't even survive the combo. They die literally a quarter way through it, or less than that, right? So, the best adrenaline pickup 60% adrenaline gain when hitting vulnerable enemies, right? The reason why I like to keep this adrenaline up so much is to kind of do the guard breaker ability with the poison buildup to start, and then switch the vault over. I'll break down the actual mechanics of how to utilize all the effects of this build, right? But yeah, massive amount of damage, right? So, as far as the hoodie piece, this is another. I got really lucky with this item, right? Comes with critical chance, 7.8%. So on top of the 60% adrenaline gain, because remember, guys, the hoodie, the headgear is a global passive, right? So it applies to any weapons that I have equipped, right? So, with that being said, you gain an additional adrenaline gain of 40%, right? So your katana could be building up, a massive amount of adrenaline too, right? But if you use this item while switching to the Tanto and you follow the strategy I'll show you, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, because you'll be able to build 100% adrenaline gain. So you're going to build that meter up super fast, right? We're talking probably less than a few seconds, right? So that's about, with the glow. And since it's a global passive, like I said, it's going to apply to both weapons. It's going to apply to Tanto too, right? So yeah, that's number one. So I got this item the same way that I told you guys about how to manual loop save against the gear vendors, which I think is the best method. And the reason is because it comes with, if you think about it, the gear vendors come with, like, no lie, 6 or 7 weapons. No, 3 weapons of each category, right? Think about this, right? The gear vendors come with 3 weapons of each category: 3 katanas, 3 tantos, and 3 kuzarigama, right? So if you think about the randomization patterns of the manual save loop, that's going to increase your chances of getting the weapons that you want, because the gear vendors have the most selection of weapons to choose from, rather than just going to, enemy camps, or, going to castles, or just kind of going to these random temples that have elites that drop epic weapons, and they might drop one thing. You know what I'm saying? And then you got to save and start over, do it again. And then the randomization pattern of, the randomization chance of the weapon that you want dropping is actually less, because they only drop one weapon. So I do that when you go to the gear vendor, come with 9 weapons in total. So that's going to increase the random happenings of getting the weapon that you want. So in my opinion, people have other strategies, but my personal opinion, the gear vendors manual save loop, best way to generate the kind of items that you want to get for this particular build, which I'm using a silent shinobi hood, which has 50% damage from poison, right? So like I said, guys, it's a global passive. So if you think about the massive damage you're doing once you proc the poison from the katana, right? And then I'm going to show you some other stuff, right? You proc the poison from the katana, you're doing 50% damage from poison on afflicted enemies. Then when you vault over and switch to the Tanto, like I'm going to show you guys, right? That 50% damage from poison now procs with 25% critical damage on hitting afflicted enemies, on top of 1% vulnerable damage per mastery point in assassin, and 2% critical damage per mastery point. So that's 4 sources of damage working on once, and you're dealing even more damage when the enemy's vulnerable. When the enemy's vulnerable, you got a higher crit chance, right? So I'm not really going to do the math on how much damage that will be, but that's a whole lot of damage while doing both afflictions at the same time, right? So that'll be Akubi's Laughter, 1% vulnerable damage per mastery point in assassin. And then the critical engraving I put, the second one is 2% critical damage per mastery point in katana, right? Along with vaulting over enemies, right? deflect on poison, right? The setup could also be done from deflect because it makes it vulnerable, right? And you can vault over with destabilizing vault using that skill from the Shinobi Mastery Tree, right? So, bang, 50% damage from poison on afflicted enemies, right? Now, chest piece. I also got a little bit lucky with this item. I think according to been rumors I've been hearing, this is not actually 600% affliction buildup. When this is actually 6% for what people are saying. Whatever. Really don't care because I still build these procs pretty fast, right? With the way that I'm going to show you guys how to use this build, and I have a showcase video already prepared to show you guys, right? So 600% affliction buildup when hitting vulnerable enemies, or 6%. This is the most important engraving, guys, for making this build effective. Okay, because without this, I don't think this build would synergize as well. 20% poison affliction duration, right? There's some key elements here for making this work. Poison builds slowly. Poison, or should I say, takes damage slowly over time. Bleed doesn't. Bleed gives a mass burst effect damage as soon as it procs to the full circle. So you trying to apply bleed first, then doing the poison wouldn't really work, because by the time you do it, the bleed factor is already gone. It's used up. You have to rebuild it again. But if you follow this strategy and you apply poison first with 20% poison affliction duration, then it's going to give you time to apply the bleed effect, right? And since the bleed effect explodes and gives you that effect a lot faster than poison does, it's a perfect complement because it's giving you time to add that other proc factor while enemies remain poisoned 20% longer, right, than you normally would without it, right? Because sometimes you may be trying to do this a double effect, and you may get hit by an enemy, you may get shot, right? You may get interrupted, but even though you may get interrupted, it's still not going to stop the flow, right? If you mix it with also affliction buildup is not lost over time, on top of that, makes this devastating, right? So not only does this deal a massive amount of damage, but it gives you time to utilize the tactics in order to inflict both areas of damage, right? So, like I said, that's pretty much the build, guys. Yeah, so I'm going to do a quick demonstration, and then we're going to end the video right there. Then I'm going to post another video of me showcasing the build in full combat, like going through an entire castle, so you guys can see, right? So, let's travel to Kamiyama Castle. It's one of my favorite castles because it spawns so many enemies, right? I consider it like a testing ground for like to test all my builds. Go here. There you go, right there. Start off right in that Kakurega there. Now, I'm going to show you guys how to apply this build, right? The tactics to make all the effects happen. The damage, the vulnerable, the crit, and the both poison effects at the same time, right? I'm going to start off with the Katana, right? He didn't even survive the combo. Weapon switch. I didn't even catch it. Whoa. Alright, so I need to do it on a single enemy because them guys kept interrupting me, but you're gonna see what I'm talking about, right? So look.
Huh? What's that? I'm taking you down.
He won't even survive this. See that? Died instantaneously, right? See, when there's multiple enemies, I like to use this technique a lot. Get rid of them. One shot. One shot or two shots. Override depending on crit chance. So. Alright. I'll be able to finally. Now. Time, boom. Very powerful, right? So, watch this. Bolt over. Feel that bleed. See? Boom. It's like devastating stuff, right? Boom. Devastating. They don't last that long. Boom. See? Devastating. Devastating stuff. Him. You also want to have the broken spirit. I'm going to go over the skill trees in a minute here. Damn, I don't know why the hell I jumped off. Need to get back up there. Get back up there. There you go. Back in action. Same thing. And right up to him. You don't want to do this. There's too many enemies around. Usually use broken spirit or other skills. See that? Bang. Do one more to show you.
Obstacle in my path.
Vault over. Crit chance. Guard breaker ability. Bang. Dodge. Switch. I was supposed to hit him, but hey. Try to get the drift, so do it again. Do it with him. 3 here. Right here. Bang. See? Dead. Oh, I didn't even see his bitch ass. Where the fuck did you come from?
Saving from me. Someone play tricks? Cut it down.
See that? There you go. This is actually fun. Couple tips. I'm just doing this for the demonstration of the video. Don't vault over enemies while there's a bunch of nearby enemies. You want to nearby and isolate, right? Also, bleed helps the enemy stagger too. See?
shot. Now it's your turn. We'll break the eagle.
Well, Guardbreaker. Shadow Piercer, and they don't even survive. Right? Sometimes they do. It's even more fun when they kind of do, so you could get that extra bleed damage in there, but hey.
You gotta stop. I do not fear death.
So you also want to have all the afflictions upgrades on most of the shinobi skill trees. And you want to have the Shadow Piercer up to 60% damage. You also want to have the Guard Breaker up to 60% damage to maximize additional damage output. You also want to have Broken Spirit to get rid of guys like this. As I told you guys, the range guys are the problem. It's not really the guys that melee you.
Something's moving. You won't break me.
Watch him.
Fight me.
Hold over. Switch. Shadow Piercer. See? Click both. Death. There you go. See? Boom. Him. There's multiple enemies. You want to kind of isolate them. You know, I'm not gonna at the same time. You want to utilize some stealth with this too if you want to constantly like use the tactics to kind of maximize the build. But oh, he saw me. Shit. You also want to have assassination damage maxed out too. 8 health segments removed on kunai. 400% damage. 4 health segments removed on kunai on unsuspected enemies with headshots. Sometimes you'll get like prompts to where you assassinate guys with this build and it'll show up in yellow and it'll take away all the health bars except one. You can utilize that while using the build mechanics at the same time to really maximize, you know, kind of set damage. So.
You test my patience.
For a good time. Nobody want to stay still. Stay still.
Give me a report. I see nothing. This is your
A little feisty today. Feisty today. Also, when you vault over enemies, they bleed too. I'll do a couple more just to show you guys, you know, how to like utilize the build if you want to use it. This is perfect, right? See? Should have took that opportunity to assassinate. Ooh. Stuck. Well, not no more. Ah. Isolate enemies when possible, guys. One guy will come out here. Right? One shot. Remember what I told you? One shot. Get rid of him with the posture attack. Boom. I do this when they start ganging up. This is another perk of this build with the 25% critical damage. Boom. And then from here, you just kind of do that. Now, get rid of him. So I'll show you guys here. So Tanto Mastery Tree, you want to have, like I said, you want to have a Shadow Barrage. No, not Shadow Barrage. You want to have Backstab, right? Posture attacks, 100% armor piercing. Light posture attacks create weak point attacks, right? And you also want this maxed out Broken Spirit's a one-shotter. Sometimes on the Guardians, it may take a 95% of their health, and you just kind of finish them off with a melee combo. From here, increase armor piercing 18%, increase damage from behind by 12%, increase critical chance by 4%. As far as the Katana here, you want to have all the global passes. I don't have all of them unlocked because I need to do more side quests to get these mastery points level up because I haven't invested into some other stuff. But you get the drift. Affliction effectiveness by 12%. Increase damage with consecutive hits by 6%. And, you want to max this out all the way, right? But even if you don't have it fully maxed out, if you just have the stuff that I mentioned, just the Tanto and everything, you can still do a lot of damage, right? So perfectly timed dodges increase damage by 60% all the way. And guys, here's the other thing. Guard Breaker deals 10% ability damage, right, and breaking armor, and increased damage breaker by 40%, and it can no longer be blocked or parried, right? So increased guard damage by 60% on top of all the affliction build-up perks that I had mentioned. All right. So you also want tidal wave, right? Do the tidal wave along with some melee strikes, then mix it up with the shadow piercer at 60%. So yeah, that kind of concludes the build, guys. if you like this kind of content, like, comment, subscribe, whatever, and we'll just go from there. All righty.